24-hour scary stories. 3 disturbing true Halloween horror stories. The night of Halloween had descended upon the town of Hollowsville, casting a serene and calm atmosphere over the quiet streets. A group of 5 daring teenagers, Lily, Emma, Alex, and their intrepid leader Jake, had decided to make the dilapidated mansion known as the Haunted House on Willow Street the centerpiece of their Halloween night. The town had whispered tales of the mansion's macabre history for years, stories of malevolent spirits and unspeakable horrors. As the group approached the mansion, the moon shrouded itself in foreboding clouds, casting an eerie glow over the twisted trees that surrounded the decaying structure. Their flashlights quivered in trembling hands as they passed through the rusted iron gates. The once grand mansion loomed ahead, its gaping windows like the eyes of a malevolent specter. Just as they were about to enter, an old man with a terrifyingly wrinkled face and a sinister grin emerged from the shadows. His eyes held the secrets of ages, and his voice was filled with a haunting wisdom. He warned the group of the mansion's dark past, urging them to turn back. "Children, you know not what you're entering," he said in a voice like a whisper from the grave. "The Willowbrook Mansion is cursed, and its walls hold the memories of unspeakable horrors. It's a place where the dead do not rest." But the teenagers, fueled by their youthful bravado, dismissed the old man's warning, insisting that they were unafraid and determined to explore the mansion's mysteries. In response, the old man's laughter turned horribly malevolent, a chilling sound that echoed through the night. He disappeared into the darkness, leaving the group with a foreboding sense of unease. Undeterred, Jake led them further into the mansion's dark abyss. They explored the grand parlor, where once opulent furniture now lay in ruins, devoured by time and neglect. The room exuded an oppressive aura, as if it had borne witness to unimaginable horrors. Lily, the youngest of the group, felt an icy hand brush her shoulder, though no one was near. She shivered and looked into the mirror, only to see a fleeting reflection of a ghostly figure standing behind her. Her scream sent shockwaves through the group, but when they turned to look, the figure had vanished, leaving behind a sense of malevolence. As they ventured deeper into the mansion's heart, the oppressive atmosphere took its toll on Ethan. He had always been the most skeptical of the group, but now his skepticism gave way to madness. He began to see and hear things that weren't there, whispering to shadows and believing he could communicate with the spirits of the mansion. Ethan's behavior grew increasingly erratic, and he became convinced that he could unlock the secrets of the Willowbrook Mansion. He separated from the group, wandering deeper into the house, speaking to apparitions that only he could see. The rest of the group, growing concerned for Ethan, tried to find him, but the mansion seemed to shift and change, as if it had a mind of its own. Rooms and hallways appeared and disappeared, leading them in circles. Meanwhile, Ethan, now fully consumed by his madness, believed he had become one with the spirits of the house. He spoke in tongues and danced to ghostly tunes that echoed in his mind. As the group's search grew more desperate, they heard Ethan's haunting laughter from a distant part of the mansion. When they finally found him, he was standing in the basement, his eyes vacant, and his laughter maniacal. Ethan had indeed gone mad, his connection to the spirits of the house having driven him to the brink of insanity. The group tried to lead him out of the mansion, but he resisted, speaking of a greater purpose and his duty to the spirits. The group was forced to leave without Ethan, their Halloween night ending in a nightmarish scene as they exited the mansion, haunted by the knowledge that the Willowbrook Mansion had claimed another soul. In the years that followed, the mansion stood as a grim reminder of the Halloween night when the town of Hollowsville had lost one of its own to the malevolent spirits that haunted its cursed halls, and the old man's chilling warning had come to pass. Halloween night had fallen upon the town of Blackwood, casting long shadows and eerie moonlight upon the quiet streets. Sarah, a young woman with an adventurous spirit and a love for all things spooky, decided to embrace the thrill of the night. Donning her witch costume, she set out on a solitary walk through the heart of Blackwood. The town's decorations had transformed the quaint streets into a hauntingly beautiful spectacle. Jack-o'-lanterns flickered with eerie light, and cobwebs adorned the porches, giving an air of otherworldly enchantment. The gentle rustling of leaves in the crisp autumn breeze provided an eerie soundtrack to the evening. As Sarah strolled through the town, she couldn't help but admire the creativity of her neighbors' decorations. She paused in front of the Thompson residence, where Mr. Thompson had set up a mini cemetery in his front yard. Tombstones of all shapes and sizes surrounded a central monument, a grim reminder of the afterlife. As she continued her walk, Sarah spotted a peculiar figure in the distance. A scarecrow, illuminated by the faint glow of a nearby streetlight, stood motionless in a field at the edge of town. It seemed out of place, given the absence of any crops or gardens nearby. Its tattered clothing and hollow gaze sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. Despite her unease, Sarah's curiosity got the best of her. She approached the scarecrow, her footsteps echoing eerily in the night. Its button eyes seemed to follow her every move, and the straw hair danced in the wind. Sarah couldn't help but notice something odd, a faint trail of candy wrappers leading from the scarecrow into the dark woods beyond. The temptation of sweets won over her unease, and she followed the candy trail into the woods, her heart pounding with both excitement and fear. The trees loomed like silent sentinels, their branches clawing at the night sky. As Sarah ventured deeper into the woods, the candy wrappers became more frequent, guiding her like a breadcrumb trail. She couldn't help but wonder who had left them there and for what purpose. Her path led to a small clearing illuminated by an eerie, ethereal light. In the center of the clearing, a twisted, gnarled tree loomed, its branches adorned with candy. But Sarah's delight quickly turned to dread as she realized the horrifying truth. Each piece of candy was attached to a string, and dangling from them were severed hands and feet, like grotesque fruit ripe for the picking. A gut-wrenching scream escaped her lips as she stumbled back in horror. That's when she heard the sinister laughter echoing through the woods. Emerging from the shadows, a figure clad in tattered, blood-stained rags and a mask that resembled the scarecrow's face approached her. "You followed the candy, my dear," the figure said in a raspy, taunting voice. "A Halloween treat for me to enjoy." Terrified, Sarah turned and sprinted back through the woods, her heart pounding and her breath ragged. She couldn't shake the feeling of being pursued. The dark forest seemed to close in around her, its secrets clawing at her as she fought to escape. Finally, Sarah burst out of the woods, gasping for breath, and found herself back on the familiar streets of Blackwood. The sinister figure was nowhere to be seen. The town had returned to its peaceful Halloween night, but Sarah knew that she had narrowly escaped a nightmarish fate. As she hurried back to her home, she couldn't help but wonder if the scarecrow had been more than just a decoration, and if the candy trail had been a sinister lure to a terrifying encounter with a malevolent spirit. In the years that followed, Sarah never ventured out alone on Halloween night, haunted by the memory of that chilling walk through the dark woods of Blackwood and the sinister figure that had almost claimed her. Halloween night had descended upon the ghostly village of Gloomhaven, casting an eerie glow over the translucent streets. Mark, a young and ambitious reporter known for his urban sensibilities and preference for city life, had been given an unusual assignment by his demanding editor. He was to cover the Halloween festivities in the spectral countryside, a task he had reluctantly accepted. With a hint of annoyance, Mark arrived in Gloomhaven, determined to complete the assignment and return to the city as soon as possible. As he drove through the dimly lit, ethereal streets, he couldn't help but feel out of place among the townsfolk, who were phantoms donning eerie costumes, reveling in the spectral charm of their Halloween celebrations. The town's decorations and otherworldly ambience failed to impress him. Mark believed that Gloomhaven had nothing of interest to offer, especially on a night that he considered frivolous. Yet his editor had been insistent, believing there was a story worth pursuing among these spectral inhabitants. Mark's journey led him to a spectral village on the outskirts of Gloomhaven, one that had long been rumored to be haunted by vengeful spirits. With his camera and notepad in hand, he approached the spectral village, intending to document the Halloween festivities and return to the city. As he entered the spectral village, he scoffed at the idea of supernatural occurrences, dismissing them as mere phantasmal tales. But soon, the presence of the unexplained became undeniable. Mark's camera captured inexplicable events, a spectral tree that shifted on the spectral breeze, eerie whispers that echoed through the spectral air. The village's spectral interior, adorned with chilling decorations, left him with a sense of otherworldly unease. It was as though the malevolent forces within the village were mocking his skepticism. As he ventured deeper into the spectral streets, he couldn't deny the presence of something beyond the realm of the living. In the heart of the spectral village, Mark encountered a spectral woman, her hollow eyes locking onto his. She began to recount a tragic tale of the town's spectral history, a story that revealed the malevolent entity that haunted Gloomhaven. As he listened, Mark's initial skepticism gave way to a chilling fear. The spectral woman's form dissolved into mist, and the entire village transformed into a phantasmal illusion. Mark was trapped in a nightmarish world, haunted by spectral apparitions, eerie sounds, and otherworldly phenomena. He stumbled through the spectral village, his every step echoing in the spectral silence. Doors creaked open and closed on their own. Spectral figures beckoned him with ghostly gestures, and the wind carried spectral whispers that sent shivers down his spine. In the darkest hour of the spectral night, Mark found himself in the village's spectral cemetery, surrounded by glowing gravestones and ethereal wails. The spectral entity, now taking the form of a sinister shadow, loomed over him, and Mark felt the weight of his own skepticism and the malevolent entity's haunting presence. As the spectral entity's grip on Mark tightened, the phantasmal world he had entered grew more menacing. He was confronted with memories of his past, including a time when he had been buried in debt, his life unraveling as he struggled to survive. Haunted by both spectral and real-life demons, Mark's torment seemed endless. The spectral entity whispered dreadful secrets and cast terrifying visions into his mind, each one more horrifying than the last. The fear that gripped Mark's heart threatened to consume him. It wasn't until the first light of dawn broke that the illusion lifted, and Mark found himself back in his car on the outskirts of Gloomhaven, his mind haunted by the spectral experience. The chilling spectral encounter had taken a toll on his sanity, and he knew that he had to confront both his financial and spectral debts. In the years that followed, Mark couldn't escape the memories of that spectral night, a night when he had to confront his skepticism, past financial struggles, and the deepest terrors of his mind while being haunted by the spectral entity of Gloomhaven.